that's kind of how I got drawn into baseball gloves because I started learning about all the different kinds of, forms and everything. And I realized, like, wait, if you want a deep glove, you got to get a deep glove. If you want a shallow, it's just crazy to think about. And then when you educate people on that, especially people that come into Charlie Rose, they're blown away. But it's actually just really interesting stuff.
And that goes back to the gloves having their own spirit and being respected at the baseline level. Is you have to listen to the glove.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Elian with Charlie Rose. I'm here with Jackson, and today we're going to talk about the differences between Japanese and American gloves. We pulled a few gloves from the store to show you guys the main differences between Japanese patterns and American patterns. Everything to do with shape, feel, construction, leather quality, leather type, design, all that kind of stuff. So the biggest difference between American gloves and Japanese gloves would be the feel and the shape of the glove. You'll notice that most American gloves feature a deeper pocket. The pockets usually sit further back into the glove, whereas Japanese gloves are typically a little bit flatter and they prioritize quicker transfers. First example I want to show you guys is this Rawlings wingtip. This one's an 11.5. It's a 204 W-2HT. This is a Horween model from a few years back. And you'll notice the profile on this one is a lot taller here compared to a Japanese glove, which is much flatter. And you can also see here, when I wear the glove, you'll see my finger is pointing more up this way, whereas on the Japanese glove, the finger lays more flat like this.
The glove's going to play a lot more flat. It's really going to help those players who like to use straight up when it comes to hand position in the glove. Two-hand fielding's very big with Japanese gloves. You really need that support because on American gloves, you can just kind of either backhand the glove and really trust it. On Japanese gloves, it's really encouraged to use two hands on most plays.
You'll see that American gloves typically are much rounder here, more symmetrical on that front profile, but then on Japanese gloves they're much more flat. Even the direction that the thumb points, you'll see on this 204, the thumb kind of points facing to the pinky, whereas on the Jacks here, made in Japan, this one is pointing more to like the middle finger. You can kind of see that like that way too. Yeah. Another big feature that a lot of Japanese gloves have is actually this palm overlay. It's a gap welting. And what that does, it gives more space for the palm to spread out, especially like around the finger area. You'll see that usually between the middle and index finger, but sometimes they'll do it like on the ring and middle finger like that.
And that just supports palm structure at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll see this one here on this Jackson. Here, I'll give you the mic for a second. This is a DM5, and it has that gap welting right here between the index and middle finger. And that just, again, it spreads it out while also just allowing the glove to have that structure. So, yeah. Very flat on this one as well, as you can see. The really neat thing about Japanese gloves too is the fact that they offer so many different kinds of patterns. They have so much variety when it comes to the shape of the glove, nuances in the construction. For example, you'll have something bare bones like this Mizuno Pro. It's a really nice glove, but really standard welting here, single welt on the fingers back here, double ace heel where it's like 2 layers. That's really standard with Japanese gloves, just a simple eye web. And then you'll have some crazy stuff like this, which has a double wrist. I don't know if that's called a double wrist, but this like double hinged wrist sort of thing going on that basically moves your hand further on the other side of the glove. So this glove feels really good worn traditionally, and it causes the glove to close pretty deep without it being like a tune to pinky kind of glove. So this is something you'd see more in the States, somewhat just more simple like that in terms of the construction and the features on it. And then you'll get some crazy stuff like this. Not to mention, there are really crazy designs like this kimono glove from D-Quest and this really cool pitcher's glove from Zed. I mean, they will go as simple as you want and as crazy as you want. Another really simple glove would be this Adams glove. This one is another fantastic glove made in Japan. This one has the double ace heel. You can see it more clearly since this one is black on blonde, but this one has a little bit more comfort features. As far as the welting goes, it's open here, so it feels better on the thumb. And then same thing here on the pinky, right? But again, this one's also more simple because it just has a regular eye web.
And when it comes to one thing that we kind of overlooked, is just how light these gloves are. They really sacrifice a lot of the padding for that lightness. That's the big difference you'll feel in between like a Timber Glaze Arenado compared to a Japanese middle info glove. One's gonna feel like 20 pounds while the Japanese glove feels very light. And a lot of that has to do with the construction of the glove and the lack of padding there is in space for just having a lighter glove.
And a lot of people, when they try on Japanese gloves for the first time, they're like, oh, this glove is really thin.
They feel like it's too thin or too weak.
There was so much more use of the American gloves that have so much more cushioning, but keep in mind that in Japan, baseball's played like kind of differently.
It's very different.
Yeah, they're more focused on like quicker transfers, just the speed of the game. So they're just like, I'm gonna take the padding out of my glove or do less padding so that I could just have less rebound and just be able to make a quicker transfer. So if you like that, you know, it's definitely worth giving a try, even if you've never tried it before, because you never know, it could be a game changer. And it kind of makes me think about how, you know, a lot of, like some outfielders might use a Pro Preferred, and it's a fantastic glove, but you don't need a Pro Preferred in the outfield. You don't need all that cushion in the outfield because you just want a glove that catches stuff.
The velocity of the baseball will never be high enough to really warrant a Pro Preferred in the outfield. Some guys just prefer that thicker feel and heavier feel, but that leather is not necessary out there.
Right, so then if you grab a Japanese glove made for the outfield, they're so light. They're so much lighter, and then just the less padding in the palm area just makes the break-in so much easier. It forms better to your hand too. When you have more just straight up leather on the glove or inside the glove, it forms better to your hand. When you have all these cushions and all these pillows, it doesn't form as well to your hand. It doesn't form much of a memory. It just goes back to its original shape.
One thing I learned too while being in Japan, just when it comes to middle infield gloves and infield gloves in general, a lot of Japanese baseball players will catch the ball in a different spot than American players. It's more towards the palm area, and that's something that took me time to even understand. While American players really want to focus on a really deep web, the ball just kind of sinking into the web, while Japanese players love to catch the ball kind of almost on the palm, just a hair higher than the center of the palm. But you'll see their break-ins are kind of made to catch the ball at that point. And the one thing that helps about having your glove broken in that way as well is, like Elian said, two-handed infielding. You know where the ball is going to be every single time. You'll never really lose it up in the pocket. One really cool feature about a lot of Japanese gloves that you'll see on our gloves at Jax and some like this beautiful Zet is there's a hinge at the top of the basket web. One really cool part about that hinge is that it really promotes the glove to close when there's impact in the web, which it's basically going to hold that baseball inside the web instead of it popping out sometimes on those 50-50 baseballs that you're either backhanding or you're reaching for. You know, it's not something super common on a lot of American gloves, but it's a cool feature to even think about and something you typically wouldn't really see on a lot of American gloves in the United States.
You know, I really think if you want to try a Japanese glove, it's important to keep an open mind because they don't feel really anything like the typical A2000 or Heart of the Hide you grab off the wall. They're so much more focused on just having a glove that fits more this way on your hand instead of like this. It's a little hard to explain, but if there's one way I could show it, right, on a Heart of the Hide or an A2000, when you wear it to in the pinky, you can feel like the glove is more like this way sort of, right? But then on a Japanese glove, you kind of put the glove on and it feels more open like that. Like you're closing the glove more this way. Another really cool thing about Japanese gloves, parents pay attention to this one, is the fact that Japanese companies have so many more options, not only when it comes to just the construction and the patterns and the shape of the gloves, but also just the tiers of the gloves. You'll notice that a lot of companies here in the United States, they'll have the $130 glove, the $180 glove, and then they'll have the $300 glove. In Japan, they have a glove like quite literally for every age and every level of play. So even if you're 25 and play maybe 20 games a year, they have a glove for you that's like $200. You don't see that here in the United States that often. Usually when you do see it, it's from Japanese companies. For example, this Zet Neo Status, this is a $200 baseball glove, and for what the price is, it honestly doesn't feel like it's a $200 glove.
If you hand that to anybody, they would guess it's a top-of-the-line Japanese glove that's worth $400, but it's just the quality they put into every single glove at every single level. Nothing's forgotten.
And the reason this glove is only $200 is because even though they use really good materials, they don't have as many bells and whistles as other gloves. For example, even though this one has some extra reinforced lacing here on the back side of the fingers, it's actually only attached to this lace, so it's using less lace. This glove was relaced, but the original lace was a little thinner. It doesn't have all the padding here in the thumb and the pinky, but even though it's only $200, it feels fantastic. I mean, this is the break-in on it traditionally,
It's beautiful.
and then two in the pinky, so yeah. Another feature that's present on many Japanese gloves is a reverse lacing on the heel. And what that allows is more space between the thumb and the rest of your hand. Kind of makes the thumb hinge a little bit more exaggerated, which is really interesting. You'll see it here on this Zet, here on this Adams. Let's see if it's on this Rawlings. It's not on this Rawlings because this one's made for the American market, which is really interesting. So even Japanese style gloves that are sold in the United States, they still make them more American, which is really, really interesting. They want to cover all their bases and be able to reach a larger audience, which is really cool to think about. Something else that Japanese gloves have are these loops here on the thumb. Usually they're like a triple loop, and that basically just makes them a little deeper into the glove, makes your thumb more snug. And they even sometimes have these loops up here on like the tip of the thumb. Not really sure what those are for. They look really sick though. That's a really big determining factor. If a glove has that, it's usually Japanese. But you'll see, and this goes back to the whole tier thing with like the different costs and different levels of gloves. You'll see that this Zet, the Neostat, is the one that's $200. This one has just a regular double thumb and pinky loop, but it doesn't have anything up here, so it's less materials. Something else they'll do is they'll make certain web designs that have these holes punched into them here. So you'll see with this Rawlings Wizard has these notches in the web that makes it more flexible. All the little tiny details they think about doing with these gloves, it's incredible, because it just goes to show how they're gonna go leaps and bounds ahead just to make sure that the glove is like perfect in every way. And that goes from everything. So from the notches in the web to the hinge on the top of the web there, you know, to the lacing, the reverse lacing on the heel. It's just incredible what they'll do. So just as far as, and this goes back to the whole variety thing.
For
There's
sure.
so much variety with these gloves.
And one thing that I've seen too is a lot of American glove companies, they all have these cookie cutter patterns where if you cover the logo, the glove pattern is going to be the same, the shape's going to be the same. In Japan, every respected company tends to have their own type of pattern, their own philosophy when it comes to fielding gloves. And that makes it a lot more unique, because when you try a new company, you're actually trying a new pattern. You're not trying just a different logo on the same pattern glove.
Hey guys, we're back with another segment in this video. Today we're going to introduce Ace. He's a fellow glove guy out here from California, and he's here to show us all of his really cool Japanese gloves.
Hi, I'm Ace. I'm 13, and I got into gloves from people just like these guys. And some of these Japanese gloves that I have are actually from a trip that I took, inspired by Jackson. So yeah.
So show one that you kind of really liked from your trip in Japan, and tell us what store you got it from, because you know there's so many stores in Tokyo, Osaka, everywhere. What's one that kind of stands out to you?
I would say this one is probably one of my favorite gloves. This is I'm not sure the size. They don't really say the size.
They don't stamp in Japan,
Yeah.
which is interesting.
But this is a Wilson Bear catcher's glove with the super skin on the back. Yeah, super clean, looks really nice. I was in Baseball Mario when I got this, and I was in their glove bullpen just looking around. There was just so many gloves, and there were two catcher's gloves that I was choosing from, and there was this one and a one just like this without the super skin on the back. And it was a little bit smaller, and I think that one was like $360 and this one was like $420 or something. And I ended up choosing this one because I knew it was just bigger, and like this one just felt so much nicer. I was probably there for like 3 hours just looking at so many different gloves, and yeah, really glad I chose this one. This was also a bear, the other one was a staff.
For sure.
The other was a staff.
The
so
bear's a great choice. If you're picking between those two, I feel like the bear's always going to carry more value, right?
Yeah,
definitely
totally.
glad I
Yeah.
chose this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you got over there, Elian?
So this one's an Adams infield piece. It has the very standard, popular, really thin wrist that's, you know, with those Adams. And this one, I don't know who broke it in or if it came like this, but
It came
this
like
is
that.
it came like this. This is wild. Like it's just
No break-in.
It's just so much like just this. It's a tiny glove, but the pocket I can feel like it's really deep. It's just
And you know what's crazy? That was $250.
$250 for this, and that's the thing too. Like they keep their prices. Not that they keep their prices low necessarily, but if you go to Japan, you buy there. You don't have to pay for all the imports and stuff like that. You know, they just make sure the glove is constructed well. All the stitches are in the right places. They use good materials on the inside that will break in really easily too. That's why this glove just feels like this, brand new, which is incredible. And they last a long time too, because what keeps a glove lasting longer is really just the quality of the innards. It's not necessarily how stiff the glove is when you first get it. With Japanese gloves, they don't put too much padding on the inside, like all the squishiness in the pinky and thumb, because it doesn't need it. When a glove is just fully made of leather, it's going to form to your hand much more comfortably, so you don't need all that extra stuff for it to feel good on the hand. So this is a glove I definitely use for baseball if I was a second baseman, but I'm an outfielder, so I probably would boot a couple with those.
Yeah, you're talking about the infield ones, and I got an outfield one in my hand. I didn't play outfield. But this Adams is beautiful. This is another one of Ace's gloves. I mean, just look at the detail on that trap web. It's so unique, and it's something you just never really see here in America. There's almost like an extra layer of lace going up the middle or the heart of the web, which is really sweet. Again, super lightweight.
That'd be tough to relace.
Exactly. The relace would be a nightmare, but it's just so sleek. The logo's awesome. It's very cool. It has like gold specks on it while also being black with beautiful forest green stitching. This, again, just another example of why Japanese gloves are superior to other gloves made in other places. It's just so lightweight, and out of the box, the form is just unbelievable. There's still tags on this glove, and it's broken in better than almost any glove I've felt that's not domestic in Japan.
Yeah.
You can tell the difference. Like, this is very similar to that one. Similar kind of web, similar size, and they're both from Japan.
Exactly.
But you can tell the difference. Adams is a little tougher to get here, and they only sell gloves there. And Wilson obviously makes American gloves and Japanese gloves, and you can tell it's a little bit more in the middle than that one.
And how big is the difference, Japanese Wilsons from, Wilsons we can buy out here? How crazy is that difference?
Huge difference.
Yeah.
So I actually wanted to take a second and talk about how we all got into baseball gloves, because we all played baseball. But what about gloves specifically got us into them? So Jackson, how about you start?
So I was 15 at the time, playing travel baseball. One of my teammates, he was bringing a new glove every day to practice. And I was like, Colby, his name was Colby Fromong. Him and his dad were glove collectors. And I was like, what's the deal? Like, why are we bringing new gloves? What's going on? They had an Instagram page of trading, collecting, stuff like that. They exposed me to that. And then slowly but surely, I kind of got into it. Got my first two really cool gloves. One was a DW5 and the other was a G4 at the time. And loved those gloves. And then that started my addiction. And now I'm doing it for a living. So pretty cool how it all started from travel ball when I was 15, but yeah, I feel like you kind of have a similar story, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I also played baseball pretty much my entire life, ever since I could stand up and swing a bat. But when I was in high school, I came across one of your breaking videos. It was of your Chris Bryant. I think you shot it at a park with a turf field.
It was Cathedral.
Yeah, that was
at high school.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was like a Cathedral.
Yeah.
It was a KB-17.
Yep.
And I was watching it for fun. Like, I didn't really have a new glove to break in. I just watched it because it had a lot of views. It popped up on my story or on my feed. And I was also watching NDO gloves, No Days Off gloves, like back in the day when they made a lot of
Great
videos.
page.
Shout out to those guys because they're really cool. And then I started watching your videos more frequently. And then when I was 17, I got a 44 for the first time. It was a gift from my brother, and they were so cheap at the time. So I kind of convinced my mom to give me another one. So I had two 44s. And then COVID hit when I was a senior in high school. And so I had nothing better to do, so I started a YouTube channel and I just started collecting gloves. I started off with 44s. I had like 7 44s at one time, remember?
Yeah.
And then after like about a year of collecting gloves, I started getting more into, other brands. And then me and him got connected through there. We started like a back and forth, and then I visited San Diego 3 years ago for the first time. Just slowly built a community through that, because all these guys that do the gloves, like, they just love baseball, and it's actually insane. Like, it's weird though, because some of us, we know each other by username, and they'll pop into the shop and be like, oh, I'm so and so ball gloves. I'm like, that's wild. Like, we know who they are, we just didn't know them by face. So, but it's really dope, and that's pretty much what led me to work at Charlie Rose. So yeah.
Now you're working in the industry.
Yeah, now
which is
it's
so cool.
It's nuts. What started off as a hobby when I was 18, bored during COVID, turned into basically my career.
How about you, Ace?
Honestly, I was just thinking about it. I have no idea specifically what got me into gloves, but I do remember my first nice glove that I bought.
Nice.
I still have it actually. It was a A2K 1786. My friend, his name is Sterling, and he had I don't remember, it was like a Mizuno Pro, it was the Tatis one, the infield one. And he gave that to my brother. And I think I had a GG Elite, and I was like, I was looking at my brother's glove, and I'm like, oh, that was really nice, I need one of those, and he didn't even play that much, and so I was like, I really want one of those instead of just stealing it from him, because I probably could have done that too, but, I had another friend, super close friend, his name's Tyre, and he moved to Montana, but we played together, we played on the same team, and, he had the Wilson A2K 1786, but we, for like a couple months, just like went back and forth between probably like $5 of like whatever price we wanted, and I ended up buying it for I think $245, and it was relatively new, and so that was a pretty good deal. I think just from then, just feeling my teammates' gloves, just like getting more gloves, getting more into that, and started getting gloves for holidays like my birthday and stuff.
Yeah.
And just turned into this.
Nice,
Dude. Yeah, right on. Pretty much everybody who gets into gloves, it's usually through somebody else that introduces them to it. I gave a buddy of mine back home in New York the glove bug. He bought like a Wilson Staff Bear. He got a Haga rubber ball, all within like 3 months, because I gave him the glove bug, and he blames me for it, but I'm glad I gave him that. So yeah.
What's the story with that one?
So this one's really special. It's World Pegasus, made in Japan. But the really cool thing about this one is that it's made for Ha-Sung Kim, infielder for the Padres at the time, now for the Tampa Bay Rays. But you can see his signature logo he has on his batting gloves there, along with his name, with a really cool shadow embroidery, which is really big in Japan. This is one of the stiffer Japanese gloves I've ever felt. It has a very small hand stall. Maybe that's custom for Ha-Sung Kim. But I actually got this glove from a son of someone on the coaching staff at the time. So it was a really good connection to have, but just a really beautiful glove. The navy's fantastic. You can tell he used it a decent amount, took some infield with it. But he ended up gaming his yellow one that year. He had a really cool yellow one, if you guys remember. It's like a Padre gold yellow. It looked fantastic. So this is the one that got traded. It's really cool. One of my favorite touches, though, is this embroidery on the wrist. This is really big in Japan as well. You can see Elian did that on his Jack's custom. We can cut to that and see his custom number right there. But yeah, it's a really special glove. I love it, and it's something I'm not probably going to use, but it's fun to keep on the shelf, and it's fun to tell people about it.
So Ace, what do you think is the biggest difference between Japanese and American gloves? Not just with the quality, because obviously people know that things made in Japan are usually of a higher quality. Why would somebody want to try a Japanese glove?
I would say, besides obviously, like you were just saying, the quality of the glove is a lot better. One thing that I recently noticed, and this isn't specifically have to do with just the Japanese gloves, this can also work with an American glove, but I realized when you think of breaking a glove, the first thing you think is whether you want one or two hinges, how you're going to close the glove, and then you'll probably use a mallet to hit the two hinges. And one thing that I realized watching a lot of Japanese glove break-in videos is that they don't use the mallet that much, and they're really using their hands a lot and just molding the glove around and making the whole thing softer. And I think that might help with durability a lot, because think if you have a crease there, the more you use it, it's just going to go flat sooner.
It'll
because,
pancake.
Because if the two hinges are already have creases and are already weaker than the rest of the glove, then the more you use it, once like the palm and the parts that are harder to break in get to how the creases are and they're softer, the creases are just going to be like, they won't even matter. The glove will be totally squished.
And a great point to add on that I've heard spending my time in Japan working with Jacks is they kind of view the gloves as a living being. Obviously, this was a cow at some point. You know, I feel like that's not really the mentality over here in the United States. People see it as an item, it's a baseball glove, whatever. But over there, they believe there's a spirit in each and every single baseball glove. So each glove is treated so well, and the break-ins are so important to be done correctly. Every single angle, you know, when it comes to how it's built, to even how it's broken in, is at the highest quality possible, which means a lot to me and obviously means a lot to consumers who spend their money on these items.
Let's take a second to talk about this Kubota Slugger. This one is super flat, as you can see. This is insane, right?
I mean,
Look at the
compare it
difference.
to a United
like a
States
pancake
glove.
trainer.
Yeah, it's very much like a trainer, yeah. And one thing to look at when you're looking at Japanese gloves to really tell how deep the pocket is this angle along with this angle. If your finger's pointing more up towards the sky, it's going to be a very deep pocket. But if your finger's more horizontal like Elian's is...
Similar to the TT2.
Exactly. Yes. Very similar to the TT2. You're going to have a lot more flat glove. You're really going to have to work on using two hands. You're going to have a lot more feel for the ball, especially in the pocket. But it'll just force you to, you know, be more fine-tuned in the infield.
The reason why somebody from the United States might want to try a Japanese glove is just because of all the options you have and all the patterns. Like Ace mentioned, you can be a lot more hands-on with Japanese baseball gloves to get the form that you want, and it also depends on the model that you get. As you can see, this Kubota Slugger is really flat, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can take this Wilson staff and break it in the same way. It'd be much harder to do that because there's just so much variety. As you can see, we have about, 20 gloves on this table? Just about, if my math is correct. Yeah, just about. And they're all different. Even if it's the same brand, same kind of like webbing or size, these gloves are all different. They all form differently. They all feel different on the hand. If you walk into a glove shop in Japan, there's no reason why you wouldn't walk out with a glove that fits your hand perfectly.
And one point that I really want to add on to that is the whole miss I think there is in the United States when it comes to glove patterns. So many glove companies use the same cookie cutter patterns in the United States, especially the small ones. Mm-hmm. They're all made in the same factory. If you cover the logo, it's most likely going to feel like the same glove.
I was just thinking the same sort of thing, that if you watch Ball Glove King, who's probably one of the biggest baseball glove creator, inspires a lot of kids to get into baseball gloves just like me. When he talks about a glove, I don't know specifically which video. I've watched all of his videos probably 17 times, but because he was saying that when you buy a glove, and then you want the same one and you go and buy it, you want the exact same glove.
For sure.
But I wouldn't even say that's the same in Japan because there's so many different types, and it matters so much about how you use it and how, like, it really molds to your hand.
For sure. And that's the best part about jumping into Japanese gloves is there's just variety. You know, it's not all the same patterns, it's not the same cuts. The Adams is going to be way different than the Jacks, than to the Pegasus, to the Slugger. And that's what makes these gloves great. And the hard part is just finding one that you like the most.
So one thing that we need to talk about is how to get your hands on Japanese gloves, because they're hard to find as they are in American baseball glove stores. How do you go about finding these? Because it really just depends on what you're looking for.
One way that like I talked about, I went to Japan, had friends that went to Japan. Social media is a good way when you get to know people and you're like, hey, do you have this one? I've reached out to some people. My friends are like, hey, have you seen this? And I'll reach out to someone.
Yeah.
eBay's really good. I would say I use eBay a lot. eBay, Sideline Swap, all those places. One of the big things, though, is it's going to be a lot more expensive, even if it's a used glove, because something like this, I got a really good deal on this, but if you get this in Japan, something like this, or specifically this one, was $360. If you put up a listing right here, that one is for, I think, $576, if I can remember correctly, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, getting them is obviously the hard part. A great place to go is obviously Charlie Rose. You're on this video, calling them, going on Instagram. They're starting to have a wall, correct? You guys
Yes.
are constructing a wall of Japanese patterns to make it easier for the consumers to get them. If you're looking for stock ones, if you guys know me from my videos, I'm obviously biased. I work for Jack's Athletics, which is an American company. We make Japanese gloves in Japan.
Really nice gloves.
So they're great gloves, but that's one way if you want to feel ours. But if you're looking for a Japanese company's glove, I would definitely reach out to, Charlie Rose, Elion, anyone at the staff. They'd be more than happy to help you find the one you're looking for.
And about that Japanese glove wall, we actually started that like 2 weeks ago, and we're slowly building it, because we actually got a comment on our Instagram a couple days ago. It's really good that you guys are embracing Japanese gloves. Putting a wall of just Japanese gloves back there make them stand out more, because sometimes we'll have like a Wadambe or a Staff mixed in with the A2000s, and they don't stick out as much, but when we have their own dedicated spot in the store, people ask about them more. And so they buy them more, and then we ask for more from other companies. So we're starting to get a lot more in the shop. So if you guys ever have any questions, please let us know. San Diego Baseball Gloves on Instagram and SanDiegoBaseballSupply.com.
There's custom companies, and I think Jack's is just generally more Japanese gloves, but 44 has their Japan pattern. I don't know if either of you guys have felt it.
I have one.
we felt
I
it.
actually
Yeah.
have one. I have a Japan Select that I actually reworked the laces on, and it's actually pretty nice. Yeah, so what do you got right here, man?
So this one is a 1786 Wilson A2000, the one I was talking about that I got that kind of got me into it. Yeah, that one was one that I had in my bag that I was using for probably a season or two, and then I started getting into gloves and got some other gloves that I was using, like the Aussie Albies, the red and Super Snakeskin, the dark blue Super Snakeskin. Started using that one, I like that one. But I had it in my bag when there was a Malibu training camp, and they came down to Bluffs Park, Derek Lee, Mike Moustakis, and Ryan Braun.
Nice.
And he actually signed this one on the pinky.
Ryan Braun did?
Ryan Braun
Nice.
signed it on the pinky. That was when I was younger, and I didn't really know who those guys were. Super glad I got it signed by them, or at least by Ryan Braun. I think I got a ball from Derek Lee and Mike Moustakis, which is awesome. But yeah, I was just kind of random. It was in my bag. They were there. The coaches were like, hey, guys, if you want to get anything signed. So I went up and got this.
So we've been talking about gloves for a while now, but we haven't even really spoken about how to break them in besides using your hands. Ace, what's your favorite way to break in a glove like this?
I've been doing the ball glove king method. You dunk it in water. You get your breaking pad or towel or whatever you're breaking on. Use a mallet, a ball. Rollovers are good to break in the pocket and deepen that. I like to roll the fingers on a lot of my gloves then. Outfield obviously depends on the glove, but you can just flare both the thumb and the pinky, which I think looks really good. That's kind of what I did on this one. Less mallet, and I've just been like moving the glove around. And it does make a difference, even when you're just pushing the hinges in instead of just hitting them in one spot.
Like molding it almost. Yeah.
It does make a difference.
One thing I really like about Japanese gloves too, especially when you're buying it from a factory store there or online, is they will come almost pre-formed, and that's something that I love, because in America you get these gloves, they come in with all the fingers like that because of how tight the lace was drawn in. The big difference for me is just how well it forms with that like minimal effort, right? I mean,
Sure.
you barely put any effort into a Japanese glove, and you feel like it's the best glove you've ever formed in your life. And this Adams is a great example. That is just exactly how Daisaku-san breaks in gloves over Baseball Mario. I see that on his Instagram. I learned that from him, but that was minimal effort, and that's just one of the best broken in gloves I've ever felt in my life.
Yeah, and a lot of people sometimes they worry that, you know, if a glove that already comes soft or preformed, it's not going to last as long. What makes a glove durable is the inside of the glove. So people, they think that, you know, I'm going to condition my glove, I'm going to oil it up so it can break in easier. That's just preserving the outside leather. What really helps keep the form on a glove is the inner padding, right? So in Japan, what they'll do is they'll make sure the thumb and the pinky are rigid, but they won't put too much padding here in the heel and in the palm. That's why they're typically thinner, but they also have a different tactile feel when they play baseball. That's why Japanese gloves typically are a little bit thinner. Just because a glove comes preformed doesn't mean it's not going to last as long. If anything, it's going to last longer because it's going to form to your hand better, and it's not going to crinkle up or crease.
It
It's
was
not
formed
going to...
correctly.
If it was formed correctly, yeah, it's going to form correctly to your hand,
Yeah.
so it's going to just respond better to when you play.
You don't have to do a whole lot of work to the glove if it already feels like you can play catch with it. You don't want to bend the glove or do anything to the glove that you can feel it doesn't want to do. So if a glove comes that wants to be one hinge, you need to use it one hinge because two hinges will just feel weird and it won't be good. Find a deeper glove instead of trying to make a shallower glove deeper.
Exactly, that's a really big point, dude.
massive.
Because a lot of people they'll bring in an MP4, like, hey, my MP4 is like super shallow. I'm like, well, because it's a shallow glove.
It
It's
was
like
meant to be that based on the pattern.
exactly, and yeah, that's why, you know, that's kind of how I got drawn into baseball gloves, because I started learning about all the different kinds of, you know, forms and everything, and I realized, like, wait, if you want a deep glove, you got to get a deep glove. If you want a shallow, yeah, it's just crazy to think about. And then when you educate people on that, especially people that come into Charlie Rose, they're blown away. But it's actually just really interesting stuff.
And that goes back to the gloves having their own spirit and being respected at the baseline level. Is you have to listen to the glove. Like Ace was saying, you have to listen to if it wants to close one hinge, two hinge, if you need to have the pocket deeper, just listen to the leather. You'll know once you start to mess around with gloves more, you'll understand what I'm talking about, but listening to the glove and what it wants to do is more important than anything, because the second you try and make a glove break in the way it's not supposed to be, that's when you really hurt the form of a fielding glove.
All right, guys, that's pretty much going to do it for this Japanese glove roundtable. We want to thank Ace for coming down.
Yeah, thank you guys. This was awesome.
Yeah, of course, man. It's our pleasure, and this is why we love what we do. It's just simple conversation, but it goes so much deeper than just the baseball gloves. This is why we do it.
Yeah, and this is the knowledge that's not even helping us, but it's helping you guys, because you're learning so much about Japanese gloves and gloves that aren't domestic to us. So this is the knowledge that we love to share, but we're just also happy we can share with all the viewers as well.
So we want to thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more stuff. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Gonna be posting more stuff like this soon, so stay tuned. Thanks so much for watching, guys.